Yeah, good morning, and we are live now. Warm welcome to webinar on culinary tourism, and this has over the years has developed as a niche segment which has caught the imagination of the travelers as well as travel planners also. And we are endowed with such a rich variety and diversity of cuisines that it could be effectively leveraged to for the promotion of tourism. And we have a very eminent and rich mix of speakers today with us. And without taking any time, I would request Mr. Surinder Singh Shakura, member of Rajasthan State Council and chairman of Shakura Hotels, for his welcome remarks. I would take a moment to briefly introduce Mr. Shakura. He is a leading hotelier of Rajasthan's capital city, Jaipur, and running hotels in Royal State of Rajasthan for around 30 years with leading edge hospitality standard and magnificent historic properties like Hotel Shapura House Jaipur, which is a striking example of neo-heritage architecture of Rajasthan, Hotel Shapura Haveli, a restored heritage palace, and Kumbal Vilas Kumbalgarh under the auspicious backed by Trump Up experience. And he is contributing to the tourism sector of Rajasthan, and he is former member of Bombay Stock Exchange. He is currently member of various uh, tourism related trade bodies, Federation of Hotel and Restaurant Association of India, Indian Association of Tour Operator, Indian Heritage Hotels Association, Hotels Association of Jaipur, Hotel and Restaurant Association of Rajasthan, and recently appointed as Vice President of Federation of Hospitality and Tourism in Rajasthan. So with these words, I would request Mr. Shapura for his welcome remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Atulji. Thank you very much. Good morning, all. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Chef Manjeet Singh Ji Gill, President IFCA and Corporate Chef ITC Hotels, Chef Rajiv Ji Goyal, President India Food Tourism Organization, Mr. Prateek Hiraji, President and CEO Tornos, and of course Mr. Atulji Sharma, Head of FICCI, Rajasthan State Council, and participating delegates. I'm delighted to be among you at this today's webinar on the culinary tourism that focuses on food as an attraction for exploration and destination for tourism. Although food has always been an integral part of the hospitality service, it has found a special attention as an instrument of promotion recently. It has involved in a variety of formats and products like culinary trails, cooking classes, restaurants, farm weekends, cookbooks, food guides, and new or adopted recipes, dishes, and even ingredients. The tourism potential of India lies not only in such rich culture and heritage, but also in gastronomical delights, which is melange of spices and flavors. Cuisines, hidden and ghee flavors are not just rich in taste, but also high on health, with spices like black pepper, red chili, saffron, turmeric, cinnamon, loaded with health benefits. This serves as an added attraction for the tourist. Culinary tourism is not only important for preserving the culinary customs and traditions slowly being replaced by the glitz of modern life, but it is also essential for local vendors, farmers, and other sectors of the industry. I'm sure that given the rich diversity of food experience, it will involve as a driver for growth and development of tourism, and the deliberations during the webinar would provide a meaningful insight on the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Shapuraji, for setting the context of the webinar. And moving forward, we have our next speaker, Mr. Prateek Hira, who is President and CEO of Tornos. And Mr. Hira has 27 years of first-hand experience in tourism. He is founder, president, and CEO of Tornos, an experiential tour company established in 1994, and possibly the first company to start culinary walk in India in 1995 that has been highly recommended by international magazines. His other companies are Gastropes that specializes exclusively in food travel to India, India Frontiers that cater to theme of British in India, and more recently he has co-founded River Rhapsody, a company that specializes in river-based tour, luxury camping, and riverside entertainment. He is also a tourism researcher and a teacher of tourism, being associated with many universities in India and abroad, and has many tourism researches to his credit, including many published works and papers. He is the chapter chairman of Indian Association of Tour Operators and chairs Tourism Committee of FICCI UP State Council, and is a member of FICCI National Committee on Tourism and Hospitality. And gastronomy as a subject is close to his heart, and we all be enlightened today by his views and thoughts. So we welcome you, Mr. Pratik Hiraji, and look forward to hearing from you. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Atul Sharma, and thank you, Mr. Surendra Singh Shakura, for having me on this panel this morning. Good morning to all of you and to my co-panelist, Chef Manjeet Gill and Chef Rajiv Goyal. Both of them very good friends, and we have been together on many panels related to this subject. And as you said that the subject is close to my heart, I would say it is closest to my heart and something I enjoy talking and learning about the most in life. So ladies and gentlemen, let me start by saying that who doesn't love to eat good food? So I think all of us, so we can safely say that this is the most universal attraction for all of us, and who doesn't want to sort of go to places and eat nice food, local cuisine, and try all those unique things. I mean, the United Nations World Tourism Organization has already recognized culinary tourism as a niche tourism activity, which is an experience that's related to food, the food products, and all the activities around it. So, which means that it's not only about eating food or cooking food, but it involves all things around it, like visiting the local producers and going to attend the food festivals and learning a bit of cooking at these cooking classes, which are run by locals. So and so much more. You can the array goes on and on. So culinary. Let's call culinary tourism as gastronomy tourism to give it a bigger canvas than just food. It contributes kind of largely in taking the destinations, giving them a new height in tourism. Food, cuisine, or call it gastronomy, it keeps traditions alive. It involves local communities. Plus, of course, it hugely contributes to generate a huge employment opportunity, which is at the moment most important for us in India, and even the tourism sector after the COVID is ebbing and people are out of their work or limited. We are working with limited workforce. So this is one subject that probably can change the things that tourism has gone through, and very quickly. So this is a form which comes in naturally to us in India. So this form of, and plus it has given rise to so many new professions like food walk leaders and food bloggers, food writers, photographers, and food critics, and whatnot. The list goes on and on. Not only this, but often, food becomes an attraction in itself and actually the reason to travel. While rest of the things, sightseeing or cultural heritage monuments and all those things are in the periphery. So the main focus always, probably in this kind of a tourism activity, becomes food. And I mean, it sounds unbelievable to many, but there's a research to back it which says that 53% travelers actually travel for food. In fact, to only places that promise them good food, great food, which have multiple eateries and some unique array of cuisines. Then this research has also pointed out that 80% travelers research for food when choosing a destination for their holiday or planning their holiday. So this becomes a very important kind of motivator for people to travel. And astonishingly, it's 25% of the budget that a traveler spends is spending on food. So I think to the extent where hotels are also relying more on their F&B outlets and banqueting than their room sales. So room sales is just a minor part of it, and to sort of cover up all the things. And I think Mr. Surendra Singh Shakura, being a seasoned hotelier himself, would agree in his hotels also, which are quite famous for food. Probably this kind of a system is followed, where there's a lot of attention detailing in their food and beverage outlets. Gastronomy, but I would say is, though most explored and loved subject, but at the same time it is also quite underrated in India. So either we are not proud of our cuisine, or we have not been able to sort of build up that kind of narrative for our cuisine. We've taken it very casually and haven't paid much attention to our own food. I mean, there are battles which have been fought because of food. I mean, when people claim their food, I mean, there is a controversy about the champagne. It's French, and then the American took the name and they call it champagne, and there was a treaty between the two. So all these things have sort of, then the war of biryani, which Chef Manjeet Gill will throw light on, and I see him on the panel, that which is an ongoing war between Hyderabad, between Lucknow, Delhi, and places that, and all the places have their own version of biryanis, even in South India. So there are these things that go on between the two or three parties who claim their particular food, their dish, as a claim to their fame, and we are somehow ignoring it, which is probably rightfully ours. So I say this with great conviction, because in spite of such a huge attraction, we in India have not been able to kind of project our cuisine so well. I mean, if you go abroad, there's hardly any place where you don't find an Indian restaurant which is being run by Pakistanis or Bangladeshis, which is fairly okay for us. But the point is that in the grab of Indian food, what are they giving to their guests? Because there's no structured kind of system that we are following, and when these people come to India, they find it quite different. But that's fair enough. I mean, it's like our Indie Chinese, which we have done, and when we go to China, we find that, there's nothing called chow mein, or there's nothing called chicken chili or chicken Manchurian, which we have kind of invented here. So anyway, but that's spreading the cuisine, which is quite positive. I myself come from Lucknow, that gives very high regard to its food, and equally, or rather more high, we regard our cooks more highly. And so to be in love with food is something that comes naturally to me. But this is one place where each dish has a background story to tell. So, for example, I'll narrate a story to you here, that we all eat parathas, and we get parathas everywhere probably. But in Lucknow, there was this cook in the court of Nawab Ghaziuddin Haidar, who would only make 6 parathas for the king's lunch, and nothing else he would make. So there were different cooks to make different things. But this particular fellow, this man would only do parathas. And in these parathas, in each paratha, he used 4.5 kgs, 4.5 kilos of ghee. And making 6 parathas totaled it to about 27 kgs. Now you can run your imaginations to understand that how was it done. And but anyway, so now during the finance audit, there was this minister Aga Mir who raised a question that how is it possible to use 27 kgs of ghee in doing 6 parathas, and probably I want to audit it, and I want to see the making of these parathas. So a session was kept for him when this cook was making these 6 parathas, and he was given this 27 kgs of ghee. So what came out of this was that he did use 27 kgs of ghee, but all that the paratha actually absorbed was about 4.5 kgs. And rest 22 kg, which was left, was put in the drain. So it was drained and wasted. So obviously ministers have objected to it and said that from now on, this cook will only get 4.5 kgs of ghee for making these parathas for the king. Now, when this paratha was served to the king, the parathas after the sanction of ghee was served to the king found it not so good, and probably then he called for this chef and asked him that why isn't now that the paratha is not so good as it used to be. So the fellow narrated everything to the king, that there was no sanction earlier, but now he's been sanctioned and his supply has been cut by about 22 kgs. So immediately the king, who was Ghaziuddin Haidar at that point of time, he called for his minister Agha Mir, and not only Agha Mir was slapped in front of everybody in the court of Awadh, but also this cook was given the same position as Agha Mir. And he was honored with a robe and everything, and he was and since then it is said that in Lucknow we don't interfere with the chefs, and that system is still followed. So likewise, you can understand the reason of telling this story here is that it has created value for these parathas. It's not talking about good paratha, bad paratha, or comparing it with any other paratha, but it has created value for this particular dish. Enough curiosity for people to come and try these parathas in Lucknow. And similarly, you have dishes like Galawat kebab, which goes by a name Tunde kebab in Lucknow. So all these things, all these are backed by a story. And to quote from your state of Rajasthan, I was recently in Jaipur, just about 4 or 5 months back, and I happened to dine at a restaurant called 1135 AD at the Amer Fort. Now, what I liked most about this restaurant was its menu, where they have curated from different royalties of Rajasthan. Of course, not going into detail, it was authentic, it was good, it was bad, or whatever, but it is enough to excite a diner who's dining in this restaurant. So this is the concept that we need to follow. The storyline is very, very important. And then, in my opinion, the kind of diversity that the Indian cuisine can get, its gastronomy in India, which there's no better way to experience India, its destinations, its culture, its communities, people, than through the culinary traditions that we have in India. When I say culinary traditions, I mean food in every form, from everywhere, eateries, all types of eateries, fine dine restaurants, humble highway dhabas, telas, kochawalas, whatever, temples, gurudwaras, dargahas, local homes, palaces, whatever. So it's about royal cuisine, it's the cuisine from the local subject. Another most important point that I would like to mention here is that it's almost a myth that we have anything called Indian cuisine. So unlike French and Italian, of course, they do have regional variations, but not to the extent that we have. So you can see the amount of diversity in food from northeast to west, east, south, different states, different regions within that state. Rajasthan, for example, from one specific area to another, you switch and there is variation. Same as with all the states, I would say. Even the tiny states have variations. And then there are these subsets, of cuisine in India, such as the tribal cuisine, the community cuisine, those communities who may not have estates of their own, but the Kaista cuisine, the Parsi cuisine, the Sindhi cuisine, all these are, again, of course, we have such a senior and respected chef on the panel, Chef Manjeet Gill, who I'm sure would mention about this when he speaks and because he's done a huge work on these subjects during as being a chef. So he's more of a researcher than just a chef, I would say. So, and then why aren't we mentioning about the enotourism, which is a sub part of gastronomy, wine tourism, which we call in simple terms. So, which is visiting the vineyards and wineries, the tasting, consuming, purchasing wine. And I tell you, we have got some finest spirits in India. Rajasthan is doing some of fabulous things, the family kind of breweries that they have. We've got some great wines coming from the Maharashtra and the Karnataka, even some fruit wines coming from the Northeast, some very nice single malt whiskies that we have, but we are not proud of. I mean, you will seldom find these whiskies, wines being served in any of the great hotels. Why not? So we can probably, to our guests, we can introduce them to these single malts and kind of fine Indian whiskies and gins and rums, which again have stories and Indian connections, at least the gin and the rum I know of, not whiskey so much, but then the wines made of fruits. So this is another area that has to be looked into, which we are somehow ignoring. And these things are not even available, I tell you, in the stores. So when we say that it's being vocal for local and Atmanirbhar, so why not promote these wines and spirits which are made in India, are Indian stuff, and probably sell them and introduce people to these kind of things in our restaurants, in our hotels. Now, another thing is that tourism, as I said, is the culinary tourism, as I said, is a niche subject, so which is very specialized. And I'm now foreseeing a bit of over-enthusiasm among travel companies and guides to include it in their general portfolios, without probably understanding what it is. They are doing without much knowledge. Research is not involved. They ignore their own handicaps in this area. After all, it's a specialist field, as I said, niche, and has to be treated that way. So we need to understand that this is no ordinary subject. It requires not only appreciation for food, but we need to be able to interpret well. We need knowledge about the recipes, ingredients, food history, stories to top it all, and a robust research, I would say. So I think it's the right time we pay attention to this aspect before it's too late for our country and it starts getting bad name for this lovely subject that otherwise can be most important driver of tourism and make tourism the most attractive for many people. As I said, 53% of the world's travelers are traveling for food. So it is a huge market. It's a huge thing that we can tap. And a lot of work needs to be done in this sphere. And I'm seeing Rajiv Goel also on the panel, and he has been doing some good work on this subject, documenting it, and probably in terms of training and all those things, what I know. And I think Rajiv Goel, when he gets to speak, he will throw some light on what are the kind of initiatives that he is taking in this area, and what are the initiatives that are required from the side of the states and the central government, and of course us as private players. So of course we have, I mean, I'm a person who still makes tehdi rotis, so I'm not an expert on sort of expert as the panelist on the subject who are with us, but the panel is very well informed and thorough experts. So I will, and I'm sure they'll enlighten all of us on this particular subject. So with that, thank you, and I pass it on back to Atul Sharma ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ira. In fact, for sharing such a detailed insight. We have some questions that we have received along with the registration. I would like to take two of them with you. Number one is in the immediate aftermath of this pandemic. as hygiene and safety, health safety and physical distancing are going to be important for post-COVID travel, how do you see future of homestay and culinary tourism?
Well, I think it's my personal, I'm not discounting this fact that safety and the medical thing is important post-COVID. But we need to understand that there is a very thin line between the new normal and the abnormal. So I'm just thinking that we don't become too overzealous of, making people kind of wary of eating out, and they aren't. I'm telling you, when the restaurants have opened, when the hotels have opened, food and beverage is one area which is really doing well. I mean, thela walas, I can see the chart thela walas who are using their hands to dip the batashas. Batashas are the golgappas and what pani puri that you call, in the water and serving to their clients, and people are happily having that. So that thing cannot go, and I think जो खाने की जब हम बात करते हैं तो खाने का स्वाद जो हाथों को यूज करने में आता है वो ग्लव्स पहन के यूज होने में नहीं आता. That's a fact with which great chefs will agree to. So there's the hand, and love is also an ingredient. So of course थोड़ा बहुत तो सेफ्टी का ख्याल रखना पड़ेगा, पर होटल्स से खासकर ये देखना पड़ेगा कि वो जो न्यू नॉर्मल है उसको कहीं एबनॉर्मल की तरह से न लेने लगे. तो थोड़ा बहुत उस पे जरूर काम होगा. But I'm seeing that more people are going, and people have more understanding of food. Let me tell you this, during the lockdown period, during the things when the things were closed, they have accumulated huge knowledge, and food has been, we were cooking at home, we were doing all experiments at home, and we have gained a lot of knowledge. So अब जो आपके पास जो clients होंगे, the guests, they will be much more informed than they ever were. So hoteliers, restaurateurs, the chefs will have to be more sort of on their toes now.
And there is one more question that pertains to your academic research. Maybe this looks like it has come from some academic thing only. What are your thoughts on culinary researches, and how an academician can encourage students to start researching on culinary topics?
Oh, it's a huge subject, Atul, I must say. It's a huge subject. I mean, there's no limit to it. And Rajiv Goel will sort of throw more light on this particular thing. But as a researcher, I tell you, you have to kind of go into micro details of the subject. As far as documentation is concerned, in one of the webinars, I was with Chef Manjeet Gill, who mentioned clearly that there is nothing in Indian food which is called recipes. So it cannot be documented. It's not like, half a gram this, half a gram that. And each particular dish in India, anything, a simple dish is made differently at each home. So you cannot kind of equate everything. It's unlike French cuisine or Italian cuisine where they have documented everything. But I tell you, it calls for a huge research, and India should encourage this kind of a research, because we have a lot of extinct cuisine in India. There are many dishes that our forefathers had, but we have stopped sort of doing it. We only listen about these dishes. We know about the names, which are only in stories or part of some books or magazines that we come across. So which is very different. I tell you about a dish which is made in Lucknow, which is called the Moti Pulao. A Moti Pulao that was made with the intestines of the goat, which was thoroughly cleaned, and then egg white was introduced in it, and each bead was tied with a string. It was then put in a boiling water, and then it was introduced in the pulao. So these are such difficult things which you will not ever get. There are kinds of breads that you don't get. There is zamidos, which is almost extinct now. You don't get zamidos muchly in the region of Awadh, unless, of course, there are. So these elderly people who are at our homes, we have to connect with them. We have to be with. I mean, it's not. The idea is not to sit with a chef of a 5-star hotel, but that's how great people like great chefs have learnt their art of cooking and art of serving by being at these small, humble eateries, dhabas, and learning from them the right and authentic, learning from their mothers, learning from their grandmothers, and so that's how the food heritage has been passed on. So, but I tell you, it involves a huge amount of research, and we should encourage this kind of a research.
Thank you, thank you. Let me take one more. Uh, if you could see in the chat box, somebody has talked about the potential of gastro diplomacy.
Oh, that's a big thing. I mean, when people visit, and Modi ji always ensures that the diplomacy is through his stomach. I mean, way to man's heart is through his stomach. Or when Modi ji goes out, people try to do Gujarati cuisine to impress him and introduce. So it's a great way of doing cuisine. I mean, our food has traveled like Scotch eggs that you get in the UK. Has traveled from Nargisi kofta to there, and with variations, or it traveled from there. I don't know how, but these are the things that. So it involves a huge amount of diplomacy, and diplomats are using food. I tell you, this is a very serious subject, and diplomats are actually using food to make their contacts in different countries. There are embassies that host these dinners, lunches, and breakfasts for people, and then whenever there are visiting ambassadors, so they always invite you for nice dinners, and similarly abroad as well. I mean, embassies are places where you can get very authentic food of their country, and there is a lot of cross connections that are built, and food can be an equalizer. I mean, in diplomatic terms, if you say you can, the worst relations can be made best through food, I would say. So it's a great subject. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Hira. We thank you for your presence, great insight, and we will probably take your comments in the end also. So thank you for joining. And now we proceed to our next speaker, who is Chef Rajiv Goyal. He is President of India Food Tourism Organization. And before he speaks, brief introduction. Chef Rajiv Goyal is one of the most popular names in the culinary tourism field of India. He is co-founder of India's oldest culinary tour company, India Food Tour, and has been leading a number of culinary activities like food tours, cooking classes, spice introductions, tea tasting tours in New Delhi, Agra, Jaipur, Varanasi, Udaipur, Kochi, and few others in India since 2011. His food tours and cooking classes have won TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence annually since 2012 and have been featured in a number of publications, including Times of India, Hindustan Times, Navbharat Times, and many more. And he operated a popular Indian restaurant and provided consultancy to a number of restaurants and gastronomy-related business over the years. He also provided guidance and mentorship to students and professionals in the culinary and tourism field, in addition to working guest lecture in few education institutions. His long work in the culinary field, extensive travel across the world, and experience of operating a fine dining restaurant makes him one of the best people in India to lead a culinary tour. So we welcome you, Mr. Goyal, and over to you.
Thank you, Vicky, for organizing the subject which I live, rather I say, and I wish everyone our 75th Independence Year. So I think a lot and amazingly been said by my co-panelist, Mr. Prateek, about what we are doing in India and how we should do in India and what we have done in India in the past. So the subject we are talking about, culinary tourism, food tourism, gastronomic tourism, cuisine tourism, we say whatever, but we all understand that this is one of the subjects that we all are proud of at our homes, at our kitchens. Either we talk about the restaurants, we talk about our food diplomacy, one of the subjects that is just been spoken about. That we've always been that Hyderabad House in Delhi has been always known for epic center for that food diplomacy or a gastro diplomacy. And similarly, no wonder that city of Hyderabad has been identified as one of the city of gastronomic highlight by the UNESCO. So of course, it plays a major role. But I also believe that the subject is good, subject has a very good potential, but there's a lot to be done in this subject. either in terms of documenting that what we had, in terms of creating the product, in terms of education to right, and in terms of education from right people, as Prateek ji rightly mentioned, that we should not get in rush of just introducing this product instantly without having the perfect knowledge about it, because it is a very delicate subject and it involves a threat to life. So it needs to be treated very well. People need to understand what are the food allergies, what food origin it is coming from, and it is, you can say, the tangible history that one can carry back with him. And it is one of the only segment of the tourism which not only promote tourism, it also involves or promote your sectors like food processing, because if they're eating in India or they have eaten in their country, they would encourage to come to India and eat right product, or if they have eaten in India, they would like to buy in their own countries. Where rightly mentioned by Pradeep ji about that we are doing very wonders in this industry. But just to highlight some of the segments, tea tourism, coffee tourism, wine tourism, whiskey tourism, spice tourism, agricultural tourism, sustainability in the gastronomy. You know what? The buzzword in the tourism right now is sustainability. But people completely ignore that, how much important the food segment is in the sustainability. And if you're creating the product around food tourism, it automatically became sustainable. Sustainable not only just to say for the environment, but also for the people. Because if we are creating an opportunity in those areas where agricultural tourism can be done, people won't migrate. You won't get the full city. The opportunity in the culinary tourism is that people don't have to populate the cities. These tourism have the capability that can go to any non-monumental place where even in the forest, and a very good example we have to have study from the, you can say, we can take inspiration by the other countries that we talk about, the Italy that we call Parmesan cheese, or France, or many other countries are already been doing. They are working very much on their global identification tags. Luckily in India, we have many. Specifically, this webinar has been conducted by Rajasthan. So I would like to mention two highlights of the Rajasthan, that they have Rajasthan GI tag for Ratlami Sev. And I really don't believe that anyone beside our country knows Ratlami Sev, but we all know the chips, wafers, Pringles, Lays very well in our country. Somehow we were a little more, you can say, not efficient enough to popularize our food that people could get encouraged to eat in India. Second, talking about Rajasthan is the only state government, we can say, that who have the tourism policy to promote their country liquor, and they do amazing. For me, it is pride that my country has, because irrespective, we are Scotch lovers, wine lovers, but I think it's a great pride to say something coming from my country or my city. So I think there are a lot can be done, lot is happening, but again, the potential is way, way more. Irrespective, the traveler is coming for 5 days or 6 days in India, he wants or don't want, but he ends up eating 3 times a day, which makes it the most done activity in say the whole tour, the food. If in a 5 day he eats 15 times, so in 15 times at least we have that capability to serve him completely different dish, which makes him. And luckily in India, India we call it after 1947, but if you go back, we were 564 different princely state. So that's a very quick number to understand that at least we have that 564 different kind of cuisine. Cuisine can go way more. Documenting, yes, important. Standardizing, I'm not sure at this point, but yes, there has to be some face of it. If we talk about the lot we are missing at this point, when it comes to the food, there is a lot in missing. When I say lot in missing, means like we do not have our food documented. At least ingredients are not been documented well. Luckily, the effort has been started, and we expect that some result going to come soon. I get thrilled to see the passion among the young budding chefs and the youngsters who are really into our food and want to promote the food. This stream of food bloggers, they really, gave us the hope that at least it is some point started getting documented. Again, we are not judging here who is right, who is wrong, but at least it's coming in record. The buzz is going out. Social media have played a big role. People do follow our Indian food bloggers, chefs to understand what the food is. But when we talk about Ayurveda, for example, we are just treating it as a wellness tourism, where I say the more potential is in our food of Ayurveda. Either you talk about Dincharya or Ritucharya, we know when and how to eat. While discussing, there were some things we have, like we have food history for sure. Rajasthan, where you can instantly relate that Rao Jodha learned how to win his how to win his kingdom back by the old lady who taught her a lesson over the khichdi, that you need to learn how to eat khichdi first, then you will capture it back. So we got our independence because of the salt. One of the biggest movement that we have in India is the salt movement. So you can imagine how crazy we are for the food. So we can go, crazy, or you can say up to any limit or extent to preserve or to talk about our food. So Mahatma Gandhi didn't resist to say about our food by the salt. So I think it's a very good example to state that we are. But yes, say food sustainability, I mentioned about it. Food processing industry will grow, agriculture will grow, or our farmers will get an alternate income as well, which is the most, you can say it's a need of time, that there need to be something to be done. And as I say, the food is taking you to X place in India. You don't have to limit yourself to Delhi, Jaipur, Agra, or the primary circuits. The food culinary tourism has the potential to take you to the farthest point of Northeast, to the bottom part of the South India, to the Kutch, to the Bhuj, to the tribes of Rajasthan. We can say one of the tribe I must like, or I want to mention about is the Raika tribe of Rajasthan. It's an amazing subject to learn about the Raika people. They have, created their whole lifestyle around the camel. And there is so much to learn. I would not elaborate here about the Raika people, but must learn about Raika. If you talk about instantly, say, tribal people, the first name comes as African Safari, Maasai people. Trust me, we have something here to be proud of. We are ignoring them. There is a lot to learn from the Odisha, where people still live on a forest food. 24% food come from the forest, uncultivated food. Uncultivated food is some subject that we are ignoring. The herbs, kind of the amount of herbs we have in India, and we technically use them. The science of gastronomy. I'm sure we will be learning more from Chef Gill here, because his opinion and his experience plays a major role in this for the development of culinary tourism in India, because nobody has that experience that Chef Gill has. So even as India Food Tourism Organization, we are working under his patronage and under his guidance. So see, I can talk hours and hours for the subject, and it will never be less for me, because I say I live this subject. For me, the subject is life. But some of the points that I would like to take it from the questions that I've seen just coming on my panel here, that food diplomacy, yes, of course, we have been doing it and we can make it big, and culinary tourism could play a bigger role in here. We have to take it a little more aggressively. As far as the potential of the students, of course, the culinary tourism, give an alternate career option to the chefs to be as a culinary guide, because where they have spent their 4 or 5 years as just learning to be a chef, where their knowledge of being in the culinary industry is well, but becoming a food tour guide or food tour leader can be an alternate profession for them. So, that it's another, and it's a big thing, because when you study for something, you'll get restricted to certain part or certain type of career. But giving this culinary tourism opportunity will also expand the huge number of manpower that we have in India. And we know what we are doing in India as a food. At least they know, they understand. It's not easy to just let it go that way. We have to work it on very strongly on it. So I would give back to Atulji, and like that Chef Gill should throw some light on this subject. And we will
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rajiv ji. In fact, we will come back to the question and answer part of it, because Chef Gill is currently driving somewhere and he is joining us on the way. The network is also not supporting, so we will try and do it through the audio thing. So our next speaker is Chef Manjeet Singh Gill, President of IFCA and Corporate Chef at ITC Hotels. He is a culinary professional par excellence, reputed for his constant innovation in the world of gastronomy. He is a name to reckon with in the national and global hospitality and culinary industry. Chef Manjeet Singh Gill wears many leadership hats beyond the four walls of the hotel group. And as president of Indian Federation of Culinary Association, Chef Gill was instrumental in getting many Indian culinary traditions and artists behind it, the chef recognition and laurels at the Global Forum of Chefs, the World Chefs. So we welcome you, sir, and look forward to hearing from you.
Hello, I hope you can hear me because
Yes, sir.
I am hearing your very broken voice in between.
We can hear you, sir. We can have a brief address from your side. Please go ahead.
Introducing me, I just want to correct one thing that I'm a former corporate chef, ITC Hotel. I'm not now. I'm retired from there. And the topic is very interesting and which is very heart, very close to my heart. And we are talking as chefs for a long time to promote to the food. And definitely where the chefs can contribute a lot as a cultural ambassador to this. And, and India is such a fantastic food we have, and that's my endeavor from the, when I understood what is Indian food. And Indian food is not only the skills and the few recipes, but Indian food is a knowledge. It is an intellectual subject in India. And the whole world, in my experience, that once we talk about Indian food and once they taste the Indian food, they always try to find out that what is behind this food, what is the knowledge behind this food, what is the philosophy behind this food. So there are a lot of things, a lot of anxiety our people have about the Indian food, and they want to learn about that. Somewhere we have also to increase our, when we talk about our food, we must, talk positive about our food. In my experience, sometimes it is very sad that we talk about our food when it's our civilization, and we say 5,000-year-old and all that. Then after that, we come down immediately from 5,000 to the 500, the 16th, 17th, 18th century, and many, many thousand years they just disappear from in between, where there was a great culture and a great history we always had, and there was a great food also. So we must, and first, as all the people who are interested to promote food, we must, first we must gather our knowledge and put it together in a right perspective of India. And India, the heritage, the legacy of food, it is, again, I'm saying it is not just few recipes. It is what is behind them. What is the philosophy? Otherwise, as we say, the food is very old and it's very diverse, and sometimes we communicate to the people that food is very spicy. But our food is not spicy, our food is spicy. It is aromatic, it is flavorful, it tastes. It is well balanced with the 6 stages of Ayurveda, which are mentioned in the Ayurveda. So we must be able to explain our food to the people in a very positive manner. I've seen outside, like in Spain, people take to factory for the breakfast and go to drive for an hour or so, and over there we just rub tomatoes on the toast baguette with the garlic, and you just have tomatoes in the toast. But our food is the repertoire, the variety, so what we have available as a food is cooked with a very great skill, and then the knowledge of the philosophy behind it. And because of that philosophy, that knowledge, that science, the fundamentals, the guidelines, the principles of our food which are written, and they are common in the whole Indian subcontinent. And because they are common, that's why this diverse food, being so diverse, is still called Indian food. It is not called, individual regional foods. It's still called Indian food, or it's still called food from the India or Indian subcontinent, because our science, which is well-established science, is common to all the regions. So we must try and educate people, educate ourselves, and educate people on this science, on this evolution of food in India. And India has done these things much before ahead like our food is evolved on the two verticals in the Indian gastronomy, which is wellness and sustainability, and which are the two very hot topics of the world in today, in 21st century. But our ancestors have done and thought about these things thousands of years back. So the food is so beautiful. So we must now take advantage of that and make people educate and make them understand our food and then give them the taste of our food. And India has an advantage. Like many other countries, India has an advantage that we have diverse food, we have diverse, the economic destination. And every destination, people can experience a different, dramatically different food, maybe cooked with the same common 10, 12 spices, but the art of using them is very skillful and make the food dramatically different from one place to other place. So we have a great future in the gastronomic tourism, which is becoming popular. And nowadays, a lot of tourists decide on the food experience what they're going to have, so where to go because of that. And there are examples in front of us that the countries who doesn't have any food heritage and food legacy also created their food, like Singapore. Singapore says Singapore cuisine. What is that cuisine? Even the Indian spices, the Singapore says the Singapore spices. They are trying to pitch in with all these things, and we are quite behind in this. Like Australian cuisine, people have created the cuisine for their countries to increase the tourism or to attract the tourism for their country. And in India, we have everything. In India, we have everything, and so it's more easy for us to promote and to attract the guests to get into the for the tourism. So I only like to say that we must, try to demonstrate people with the cooking, but also with the knowledge shared with them through Ayurvedic fundamentals and the principles, which will improve even their own cooking. Also, the learning will be so much in this. And I'm sorry, I'm a little difficult in connecting with you, and I don't know if the audio is clear or it's not clear, but I'm sure in the next webinar, whenever we have, I'll be able to put my point of view much better and strongly. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef Gill. In fact, albeit the voice constraint, we were able to listen to your thoughts. And rightly said, today wellness and cuisines are closely interwoven, looking at the scenario we all are in. And we'd like to take a few more questions before we move further. It is for Chef Rajiv Goel. There's one question that despite being such a vast variety of cuisines with us, why Indian food is not so prominent across the world?
So I think whoever been asking, at least so far, we can say our recent past have at least made the curry popular among all continents. But when you say it's not popular, of course, somewhere we take that responsibility and go down here and say that, sorry, we haven't done it so far, but we are working on it and definitely we're going to see it. We are 1.3 plus billion people. So of course, it won't take that long to promote it right. But yes, you can say that we are still packaging it right to serve it right. So I think that would be the right answer to say at this moment. But honestly, we are working very strongly and effectively to serve it right, because that's one of the major aspects here. And as rightly mentioned by Chef Gill, I would like to re-quote it again. Chef Gill was completely audible to all of us, but still I'm re-quoting about the amazing thing Chef have said, that the countries who kept the food in forefront have the maximum number of travelers. For instance, of our example, we can say Italy and France are the two countries who strongly promote their food, and they receive the highest number of tourists among other part of the world. So yes, as per the Chef Gill, it is the right tool to drive or bring more people to the country. And luckily, we have enough variety to offer and rightly to offer. So for sure, we have a lot of work to do. We are not resting here, and we will be doing more and more. Yes, as you asked me that whoever not able to see or get the good Indian food across the world, I would partially agree because I have eaten some very good Indian food in some other part of the world. At least they have registered there is something called Indian food, but soon they will get the good one. I can say easily. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And we can take one or two questions from the participants also. If anybody is interested in asking any question, they can raise their hand. We will allow them to speak. And in the meanwhile, I will take one more question. And that is how culinary heritage can contribute to tourism, economic growth, and development in Rajasthan. Pratik ji, you would like to take this?
Yes, I think for Rajasthan as a state, cuisine comes in naturally, but the restriction wherever, I mean, in any state, I would say, it is not only Lal Mas, which is Rajasthan. So we need to understand that the area of cuisine, the regional cuisine, the specific local cuisine that is there, which has to be brought forth and properly kind of the proper information documentation has to be done, and people need to be trained. So we need to be proud of our local cuisine in a particular city, in a particular area or region, whatever. So let us, because whenever you open these menus, you somehow see a very a fixation for some things. Like if you open a Awadhi menu, you see Galawat kebab and you see some Shami kebab and you see something. And similarly, when you say Rajasthan, they said कि sir ये लाल मांस देखिए हमारे पास ये लाल मांस है, ये राजस्थानी है, ये गट्टे की सब्जी. The very simple and but we are not going into that detail. So what are we eating at homes? What are we cooking at homes, how we are cooking at homes, what are the regional differentiation and why those regional differentiations are there? Probably because of the local availability of the ingredients, local food or whatever, which is very, very important for all the states of India. I would say Indian states are like countries, you would understand. And within that small country, we have so many regions. So if you come to a place like Rajasthan, it is not only restricted to the capital city of Jaipur, but you go into so many other areas. And like Rajiv also mentioned about this, the camel rearing tribe. So that is one part of it. I mean, of course, they will be having their own cuisines. They will be having their own traditions, something to do with camel milk, I'm sure, and how they've been using camel milk or goat milk or sheep milk in different parts of the country. So, which is very, very important. I mean, there was a perception. I was attending one of the travel fair abroad, and someone came to me and asked that if I'm a meat eater, will I be lynched? So, this is the misconception that has gone through in many places, that we don't eat meat or we don't eat a particular kind. I mean, there are states that eat beef. There are states that drink alcohol as a part of their traditions. You can't take out alcohol. You can't take out meat eating. There are states that eat all kinds of things. There are people, ethnic groups that eat all kinds of things. I mean, that we probably may not like to talk about. But then that's the diversity which we need to bring forth to people. So that is an important point where Rajasthan needs to work a lot. And as I said, some of the great alcohol that Rajasthan families are producing, which have to be highlighted. I'm sure we would love to. I couldn't get a nice Rajasthan drink at any of the top hotels that I stayed. So rather, let me put this question to Mr. Surendra Singh Shakura, who himself is a seasoned hotelier. Let him come into the picture and tell about this. What's the problem in introducing these drinks in the hotels in Rajasthan?
Yeah, Pratik ji, I got your question. Initially, if you see around 20 years from today, we had Kesar Kasturi and Asha. Asha was from Udaipur, Kesar Kasturi was there, Jagmohan was there from Kishangarh. But in between, due to certain norms, they were stopped. And the taxation on that, the duty on that made the drink very expensive. It was not taken by the tourist. Secondly, you know about it, but the publicity was not there. People coming, they were picking up wine, French wines. They were wanting to go for, whiskey, single malt whiskeys. People didn't know. Only those people who knew about Rajasthan, knew about the heritage, knew that we have our local drink here. The wine is there. They definitely asked the bartender to have the local drink. But of course, it requires immense of work to publicize it, and it needs to be advertised properly. Secondly, thirdly, again, advertisement on liquor is banned, so we can't advertise it that way. I think so. We'll have to make a branding, and with the tourism department now coming out with the policy, and the excise department very aggressive in promoting distilleries here in Rajasthan. In the recent excise policy also, as Mr. Goyal was saying, that now they've opened up. I think so more and more people have now applied to the excise department, and soon you will have more of the local distilleries, wines, which will be there, liquor will be there for your tourists and for the food industry.
I agree completely. And then, in our restaurants, we are known to upsell things. So I cannot agree on this point that because your people need to do the tasting. वो उसको 10 ml पिलाएगा ना, तो फिर वो 100 and 150 ml भी पी लेगा. But the point is that you have to introduce the guests who are coming in that, yes, of course, we are serving you Glenlivet or whatever, but this is what our kasturi is. You can just try a little spoon of it, and this is a local. So people enjoy that story behind the thing. So I'm sure you're working hard for this as the positions that you have in the state of Rajasthan. And I'm sure Rajasthan is a very, very tourist-friendly state, and people are very proactive in terms of tourism. And something maybe on my next visit to Rajasthan, I will be able to taste some of the nice.
Sure, you're most welcome.
Thank you.
One question is there for to Mr. Prateek. Can I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have time. Lal Mas or Jangli Mas? We are selling Lal Mas and Jangli Mas both here. And you said Lal Mas is not a dish of Rajasthan. Then what is it? Is it a hybrid, or it has been brought from somewhere?
It is very much. I said it is very much a dish, but the dishes are not restricted to Lal Mas. There are so many other things. जब आप किसी रेस्टोरेंट से आपको राजस्थान वो कहेगा लाल मांस है हमारे पास, but I am not saying that it is not. It is very much Rajasthan. But the point is that why is it only Rajasthan? Why is this dish only Rajasthan? Why aren't we expanding our the menus? And those, so that there the chefs have to work according to their knowledge. They have to unearth those lost cuisines. The hunters जो use करते थे, या जमी दोस्त जैसे हमने एक चीज, तो similar pattern is everywhere. It's not restricted to Rajasthan, but even in our Awadhi cuisine, we have things that are totally extinct. There are dishes जहाँ पर लोगों ने नाम भी नहीं सुना है उन चीजों का, तो वहीं पर हमारे रिसर्च की जरूरत है. And hotels like ITC, where Chef Manjeet Gill was working, they have done tremendous job, and मतलब it's किसी को compare नहीं कर सकते. So maybe such initiatives has to be more kind of prevalent in the hotels and restaurants. And as I told you about the Amir Fort restaurant where I went for my lunch, so I am not saying कि वो कीमा अच्छा था या वो something, but I'm talking about the storyline. This comes from this estate and this, so you get excited. So thrilling experience की हम बात कर रहे हैं, जो बहुत सारी dishes से आएगा.
Very correct. Rightly said, sir.
Yeah, Rajiv ji, you want to say something?
I would like to add something very interesting here about just Rajasthan here. There is everything to learn from the Rajasthan, because Rajasthan has, won the war against the nature in the extreme weather of 50, 60 degree, when there is no water, they still able to grow the millets and produce million things out of millet. It is a lesson for the world and mankind how to survive in the minimalistic resources and giving the output of maximum. And for me, if somebody start just hosting a session over how to pickle things, which is an art of Rajasthan, just a pickle, preserving, rather I say how to preserve things, that could be only a product one can sell in Rajasthan. And I see a question here, and it's a very important, a question which must be addressed, that I also personally believe that front line, that somebody is asking, having a front force guides, all guides, to be trained and publicize local food and drinks. Of course, I believe there is a lot of skill development need to be done for the existing guide force. I would say not to make them specialized, but in or while talking or explaining the monuments or the region, they should have a basic knowledge of their food and cuisine, or a particular course that they are showcasing, that or should be equipped or to be skilled by the global food allergies or basic understanding of food of the local area. There have to be one lesson that to be done. I guess it is something for FICCI to take initiative, or to do something about it, or rather Mr. Shakura, like who are heading the front line of the tourism here in Rajasthan, that this could play an important role in the coming time, because COVID has just gave us a time to restart or relearn everything and come up with a better and new product. Because if you're not coming with an innovative product in the next time when we welcome the tourists, trust me, we have wasted our 2 years, I would call it.
Thank you.
Yeah, very rightly said, Rajiv ji. Up till now, I don't know about the other hoteliers, but up till now, on request, what we have been doing with the tourists is that we have been giving them cooking demonstrations. You call it a cooking class or a cooking demonstration, where the chef or the cook comes and he demonstrates. Everything is prepared, cut first. He just puts up everything in that, and then it is served. After going through this webinar, I personally feel that instead of a demo, we should make it a proper, get it made through them, and the client should make it by their own hands, and then they should eat whatever they have made, so that they take it back and then they can try it in their own, in their own houses. Other than just making a demo is not going to help. It's not like, I think so. If it is possible, we can do that. What is your take on this?
लखनऊ के लोग हमारे पास में है यहाँ पर, प्रतीक जी. सो माय टेक वुड बी कि लखनऊ वाले तो प्याज कोरमे के लिए किस तरह काटा जाएगा उस पर भी गुस्सा हो सकते हैं. कि मेरे कोरमे का प्याज किस तरीके का कटेगा, इट इज ऑल्सो प्लेज एन इम्पोर्टेंट रोल. और मेरा प्याज कब कटेगा बनाने के लिए, इट इज ऑल्सो प्लेज अ मेजर रोल. कि आपने इंग्रेडिएंट बना के रख दिया है, प्याज काट के रख दिया, कुड ऑल्सो चेंज. और ये एसेंस है हमारे कल्चर के, ये नॉलेज है हमारी, जो हम आगे पास ऑन नहीं करते हैं इस तरीके की क्लासेस या डेमोज में, कि देयर इज एन इम्पोर्टेंस कि प्याज छील के रख लिया मगर काट के तभी डाला जाएगा क्योंकि प्याज का फ्लेवर उड़ जाएगा. तो ये नुआंसेस हैं जो हम एक प्रोडक्ट करते हुए भी ढंग से नहीं कर पा रहे. दैट इज व्हाई वी रेज द क्वेश्चन की skill plays a very, very important role in all the product you deliver when it comes to the culinary or food tourism, that you have to have. Even मैं किसी के skill पे doubt नहीं कर रहा, I'm not doubting on the skill, or not I'm saying something doing wrong or right, but I would say कि there are importance or nuances that we generally ignore in our daily life, जो हमें culturally बताए गए हैं but हम आगे तक पास ऑन नहीं कर पाते. कि हमारी हर पानी की सब्जी में हल्दी डलती है तो वो ऑलरेडी एंटीबैक्टीरियल हो गई. There is a logic about it. हर पानी की सब्जी में हम हल्दी डालते हैं तो पानी अपने आप साफ करके हम खाना बनाते हैं. हल्दी की प्रॉपर्टी और मेडिसिनल वैल्यू हमने बहुत सालों पहले समझ ली थी, as Chef Gill have spoken about. Now it is a time to document and explain it right to the world. So again, as you asked, even cutting, chopping could play a major role in those kind of demos. आटा गूंदने का तरीका, रोटी बना तो सब सकते हैं डेमो में, बट आटे में कितना पानी जाएगा, आटा टाइट है या आटा ढीला लगा है, वो भी एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल बनता है. तो demos need to be redefined.
And the storyline also is equally important. I think when
Sir,
you...
one last question to the all the seniors from the food industry. So tell me one thing, is water very important? Like, of course, the water is filtered, all is there. but the taste what we get, like what dal I eat at my farm, or what South Indian dish I have when I'm in South, or maybe down in Mumbai, Udupi restaurant, we try to get the same chef here and tell him to make, but that taste doesn't come. Is water the main concern on that?
So, should I take this, Pratik ji?
या बस हम सिर्फ लखनऊ का इसमें पानी के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बोल, यहाँ पर बस ये कहा जाता है कि क्या आबो नमक जब आप किसी से पूछते हैं, आई एम टॉकिंग इन हिंदी बिकॉज इट आई मीन इन उर्दू बिकॉज इट लुक्स स्वीटर दैट वे. सो जब यहाँ पर आप किसी से पूछते हैं कि खाना कैसा लगा आपको, तो उसको इस तरह से पूछा जाता है कि क्या आबो नमक ठीक था, यानी कि क्या पानी और नमक की जो क्वांटिटी थी वो ठीक थी. सो वाटर ऑलवेज प्लेज एन इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल, इवन इफ यू सी द विस्कीज लाइक स्कॉच और व्हाटएवर. सो वो स्कॉटलैंड की तभी वो विस्की या वो जहाँ पर पानी जो है वो एक बहुत ही मेन इंग्रेडिएंट होता है. तो आई थिंक यू हैव अ वेरी गुड पॉइंट ऑन this, that water does play a very, very important role in cooking and enhances or decreases, I mean differentiate, not enhances, this is the wrong word, but differentiates the taste. और जैसा कि शेफ राजीव गोयल इससे पहले बता रहे थे कि all the skills of this thing, but storyline is also equally important for interpretation of the food. A simple food can be interpreted well. अब जब जैसे पान की बात है, तो पान बनारस के बड़े मशहूर होते हैं यहाँ पर उत्तर प्रदेश में, पर जब हम यहाँ पर पान खिलाते हैं तो एक शेर के साथ एक शेर आपको अर्ज कर रहे हैं. पान के ऊपर लिखा गया है कि ये इसका ये इस तरह से है कि पान उसके लब पे है, पान उसके लब पे है और मैं देखा करूं, पान उसके लब पे है और मैं देखा करूं, क्या एक पत्ते से बदतर मेरी तकदीर है. तो ये देखिए हमने पूरा कितनी स्वीटली डिफाइन कर दिया कि जब आपको हम पान खिला रहे हैं तो लाली जो आपके होंठों पर आ रही है, तो ये हमारे लखनऊ में अंदाज है पान खिलाने का. तो आई मीन टू से व्हेन यू बैक इट अप विद द स्टोरीज, इट बिकम्स एक्साइटिंग एंड यू कैन अट्रैक्ट एंड पुल क्राउड. सो व्हिच इज the most important part of gastronomy tourism. Gastronomy per se is a skills. Gastronomy per se individually is making food, cooking food, whatever. But when you add tourism to it, the storyline, the history, all these things in combination with the skill sets is very, very important. So that shouldn't be missed at all.
Okay.
Now we exceeded by 10-12 minutes, and Pratik ji, you also managed to stay back for the complete time with us.
The topic was so exciting.
Such a wonderful and knowledgeable session. I would request Mr. Shakura ji to closely conclude it in a minute or so. So,
yeah, I would start with Pratik ji's opening. Culinary tourism, gastronomy tourism, that keeps tradition alive. And very well said, sir. You have given me a new name, Battle on or Battle for Foods. My next restaurant will have this name now. It's perfect. And war biryani. मतलब आज नई नई चीजें सुनने को मिली है. मतलब it's an education for a person like me, you know. Parathas from Lucknow. Definitely one lesson you have given for the hotel owners, not to mess up with the chef. जो खर्चा कर रहा है उसको छोड़ दो. No audit on them. And it's very true. Like if I go in the olden times when we had the in-house cooking, जो पुराने कुक थे, रसोड़दार, जिसको हम रसोड़दार बोलते हैं, nobody dared to ask them कि इतना कैसे इसमें आपने ये डाल दिया, इतना घी क्या काम में ले लियो, इतना मसाला, इतना मीट. आज now I am understanding कि you had to give a free hand to them to give the best of the taste, which is rightly said by you कि he knows that so much is going to go, it's going to drain. But ultimately, the taste didn't come in those 7 parathas, which you said he prepared out of 27 kgs of ghee. And you said ki 4.5 kilo, only 4.5 was used and rest it was drained. So it is not basically waste. It is basically the required thing which is required there to make that particular dish very tasty. Thank you very much, sir. All your points have been well taken. Rajiv ji, of course, I had a discussion with him yesterday on call also regarding we were talking yesterday also regarding agro-tourism, and I am very much positive that with the new tourism policy, sir, which has come up of Rajasthan government, in which the rural tourism, agro-tourism and integrated village tourism is being formulated, we would try to put these things in like popularization of food is very important. We need to popularize it, we need to publicize it, and we need to also make it in a proper way where we do not get complaints, because as you very rightly said, it is a threat of life. What you said, that it is a threat of life and it should be treated in a very serious manner. Over here, sir, I would request that I am a vice president on the Federation of Hotel and Tourism for Rajasthan. If we could go for a MOU with your organization where we could get the details and we would be able to educate and give some know-how to our stakeholders operating hotels in heritage and other properties, other city hotels, boutique hotels, corporate hotels, where they could pick up these things and they would have a upsell, as well as it would create a revenue for them. Very well said by Manjeet ji in his entire discussion. What I could gauge is we have everything here. वो एक पुरानी कहावत है, दिया तले अंधेरा. ये दिया तले अंधेरा वाली बात हो गई कि we have everything here, and the food tourism, culinary tourism is not being taken up in a very serious manner. It is not giving that much amount of returns, which he said about the France and Italy. I don't want to criticize any other country's food, but what I could go and eat there was pizza and pasta. इसके अलावा taste मेरे को कुछ ऐसा नजर आया नहीं. And while abroad also we wanted to go to Indian hotel restaurants, rightly said, run by the Bangladeshi brothers and Pakistanis, which we could get the Indian food there, and which was also being, we had a lot of, I could see the local tourists also there from the Europe appreciating the Indian food in this restaurant, and which I really felt very proud about, that our food is being preferred here. So discussion with all these panelists over here, one thing which has come to my mind, that we need to organize this sector and put it in such a way that a tourist who's coming to India or Rajasthan, I would say, reads about it. We've got different destinations. We've got rural tourism. We've got adventure tourism, where the safaris and camel rides, horseback safaris and camel rides are there, which the staying is in tents, camping is there. Out there, these type of food and dishes would gel with the environment. One thing is there, sir, the food, whatever you sell, needs a environment. There has to be a hardware where it can be justified, as you very really said, that food is important, food is there, but the environment, and you need to speak about it, you need to educate. उसको आपको एक तरीके से कहते हैं कि उसके बारे में समझाना पड़ेगा, उसकी खूबियां बतानी पड़ेगी, ये किसके जमाने का है, कौन इसको बनाते थे, कौन लोग थे इसको यूज करते थे, इसकी क्या क्या चीजें हैं. So you need to tell a story, which we normally do on the monuments. We do on these monuments where a tourist goes and we give them a entire itinerary, told that this monument was made by Falana. He was the one who made this. Same we have to do on food. Like what I could say, that same we have to do on food. We have to talk about it. We have to talk about it before the client comes to the destination, before, when we sell it on our social media, or when we sell it to our foreign FTOs, or the domestic tourist who's coming from Gujarat to Rajasthan, or from the south coming to Rajasthan. We need to educate them, and that has to be done through maybe road shows, or maybe through the seminars, or whatever we are doing. So in fact, I personally feel that it was a very knowledgeable and very educative webinar. A lot of things I have taken from this, and definitely we'll sit with our federation members and discuss and try to promote these things. Thank you very much. On to Atulji. Thank you.
Thank you, Shakura ji. And with this, we come to the close of the webinar. It was so interesting. We exceeded by 15-20 minutes, and still we can go on and on. So we will do one more session on food tourism, probably some in times to come. So